Right, let's talk about force feedback clipping in Assetto Corsa Competizione. That FF labelled bar in the bottom right, too much red and you're losing force feedback detail. First things first, I wanted to enter a baseline setup. My reference points for this on the initial pit house and ACC setup were a handful of websites, one of which is demonstrated here, all of which are very similar in detail. So more recently, Will from Boosted Media has created some content for Moza with all the recommended settings, very similar to the other settings I've come across elsewhere. However, this was geared towards the R9 base, not the less powerful R5 that's with me. And to cut a long story short, I set up everything in the pit house software just as Will advises, which gives it a really nice balanced feel. I then reduced the gain within the ACC settings and ran a few laps until the clipping was basically to a minimum. The magic setting for me is 67, down from the recommended 90%. So I'm going to crank up the settings back to 90, which is the recommendation all over the place. I'm going to run through a few corners and just demonstrate just how wacky it was, to be honest. So the reason I've picked on Nürburgring is because I've got an endurance race coming up. I want to fine tune everything to this circuit. I can tell your eyes are now glued to the bottom right hand corner, aren't they? So look at that. Tons of detail being lost, I guess. This long sweeping corner is just almost permanently red. Can't have it. So back to the 67%. Back out we go. Same three corners. Now it's well within the limits. It's going to still just scrape over the limit, lose a tiny bit of detail, but it's going to be absolutely negligible. This long sweeping right. Yeah, just one little hiccup there. Probably from hitting the curb, to be honest. Now, I have tried doing the reverse and changing the gain on the actual pit house software to about 60 or 70% and leaving the gain in game on 90, but it's just terrible. Don't do that. So I'm giving this a go on 70 just to demonstrate that it's just tipping over the edge, just probably tipping over the limit after 67, 68, 69, 70. It's just the clipping is starting to creep back in just a little bit too much for comfort, which is where I've settled on 67%. So hope that's useful, and if anyone's got any improvements on what I've found, I'd love to know in the comments. Cheers all.